Great, let's start entering text in our Excel spreadsheet. Let's select cell A1 and we're going to create a simplified monthly budget with fictitious amounts just to illustrate how we can use Excel and enter text. So let's select cell A1 and let's type monthly budget and hit enter. It will go to the next cell, A2. You will see there that it says monthly budget and it goes over columns A and B. Don't worry about that. Hit enter again and again. So we go to cell A4. Let's add the words bills. Let's hit the tab, the enter key rather, and let's add a couple of bill items. So for example, we can add rent, we can add a car, we can add food, we can add our mobile, and we can even add water and electricity. Now hit enter and let's add total. Now the water and electricity is a long word going almost into cell C, column C as well, and I did it on purpose and I'll illustrate the reason why later on. Now let's add, next to our bills, our headings, let's add Jan 2020. Hit the tab key on the keyboard to go to the next cell, which is C4. Type in February 2020, tab again, March 2020, and you'll see that the dates have changed, and depending on how your dates have been set up in Excel will depend on how these dates are displayed. More about that a little bit later on. Now let's go back to cell A1 and let's maybe change this a little bit around. Okay, now the first thing that we want to do with cell A1 is let's change the text, the font rather. So if we go into our home tab in the font group, right at the top there it says Calibri and then the font size. Click on the drop down arrow and then let's scroll all the way down until you find Verdana. Let's scroll. No, it's there. There we go, Verdana. Look how the font has changed. We can also then go and we can say, okay, but let's make it bold. Let's maybe make it italics. Let's even give it an underline, and instead of just underline, let's click on that drop down arrow and let's give it a double underline. From there, let's maybe change the font size to 20. Click on the drop down arrow, select 20. Let's maybe make this 36. Can you see that the font size is quite huge? So now what I can do to change these font sizes, either go with the drop down and select the font size, or I can increase the font size or decrease the font size. Let's see what happens when I click on decreasing the font size. Look at it changing in the... So let's go maybe to 18. It's a bit small. Let's go back up to 20. We can also change the background color of the cells, and let's select cells A1 to D1. On the paint bucket on the drop down, let's select this color, and then from the font color let's click on the drop down and maybe let's select white. Here we go, and then let's select bills A4 to D4, and let's maybe change this to a different background color, maybe something that's a little bit lighter or even darker. We can even bold that as well. And we can even change the font size there as well. And with that font size, let's maybe change that font size to 14. So let's select it. Let's change our font size to 14. And maybe let's change the font to Calibri Light. So from the font drop down, let's scroll down until we find Calibri Light. There we go. Change it to Calibri Light. Let's select from cell A5 all the way to cell D10, and let's change this font as well to Verdana. So I'm just going to select the scroll bar and quickly navigate down instead of using my scroll wheel on my mouse. I'm going to change this as well to Verdana, and you can see that entering text into Excel is relatively easy. All that you need to do is really select your cell, type in your text, and off you go. One other thing though, where we can have our sheets, where we can add more sheets by hovering at the bottom, click the plus sign, and it adds sheet 2, click the plus sign again and add sheet 3. If I move my mouse, hover over sheet, can you see it goes bold? Sheet 2 now goes bold. Let's select sheet 1. Let's double click on sheet 1 and let's call this budget so we can rename it. Alternatively, let's right click on sheet 2 and then on the contextual menu that appears, let's click on rename and maybe call this budget temp. And that's how simple it is to rename. Hit enter to rename your sheets. You can either color code your sheets. Let's right click on that budget sheet, and then when you see it says tab color, let's change that tab color maybe to a red. Let's right click on budget temp, click on tab color, let's change this to a yellow. Let's right click on sheet 3, tab color, and let's maybe make this a blue. Now can you see that your sheets have changed in color, and depending on the color of your sheet, the text, the name of the sheet, the font, Excel automatically adjusts that font color as well.